Lee Summit is your destination for big city vibes and small town charm.
Head to the downtown Lee Summit Farmers Market, where local meets fresh. Then grab a cup of coffee and discover a variety of shops and boutiques just around the corner. Continue the fun in downtown Lee Summit at a retro arcade bar. Discover your new beer at one of our 6 locally owned breweries. Cool off with some handcrafted cocktails at happy hour. End the night with live music and good company. Lee Summit, Missouri.
Hello, Lee Summit. Here's your flash briefing for the week of November 6th. City Council meet for regular session Tuesday night at 6 in Council Chambers in City Hall. If you can't watch, quickly catch up on City Council meetings by subscribing to the Council Debrief newsletter, which breaks down 3 to 4 key agenda items. Subscribe at cityofls.net. The city is hosting an online comment period for the Ward and Purcell's Intersection Improvements Project. The public can view project plans, exhibits, and provide feedback through November 15th. Find a link to the project on our Facebook page. The City of Lee Summit is excited to launch LS Aware, a free alert system designed to keep residents and businesses informed of emergencies and certain non-emergency events. The city can quickly send messages via phone, text, email, and more, depending on the preferences set up by the user. Learn more and sign up at lsaware.net. Calling all elves, the city's Cultural Arts Division is looking for volunteers to help spread some festive cheer downtown by decorating the planters. The decorations will be assembled at City Hall before placing them in the planters. Find a link to sign up on our Facebook page. And join in celebrating veterans on November 11th and honoring those who served during the Korean War. The parade will begin at noon at Lee Summit High School. Find more details about the event and parade route at downtownls.org. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
I'm Assistant Chief Jim Eden.
And I'm Battalion Chief Ben Hicks.
And today we're at Lee Summit Fire Station 3. Fire Station 3 was part of the 2016 no tax increase general obligation bond for public safety initiatives. The station was built and occupied in August of 2020. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we've not been able to give tours or have an actual ribbon cutting. So we want to invite you in today to give you the opportunity to see what goes on within a Lee Summit Fire Department station.
Let's go take a tour. This is our admin side of the facility. We use this side mainly for offices. We have a lot of work during the day, whether it's training or doing reports or just generally taking care of the shift that we need to do. At this particular station, Station 3, we do have an assistant chief that works out of here. That person has their own office where they need to manage what's going on throughout the day with the shift and staffing, and as well as running calls out of here. The captain has their own office as well. What the captain does is at this specific station is in charge of both the fire truck that's here as well as the ambulance. And so with all those personnel responsibilities as well as running calls and reports, that's where they work out of. And generally for the rest of the crew, which is somewhere around 5 to 6 individuals, we have rooms to write reports, and we have additional training rooms and other rooms where people can work. Walking into our living area, I think it's important to recognize that we work 48-hour shifts. So in the evenings, after 5 o'clock, after work is done, we may have the opportunity to catch a game or something else as long as we're not running calls. And this gives us the opportunity to do that. When we go into our kitchen, I think this gives you a great reason to know why we go to the grocery store. When you see fire trucks at the grocery store, what we're doing. Well, so for 2 days working for 48 hours, we buy all our meals at the grocery store, and then we come in here and cook. Just like you guys do at home. So everybody has their own fridge on each shift as well as their own pantry, and then we cook those meals here. Going into the sleeping side of things, we've got a couple different things that are significant. We have our own laundry room, which again is important when we're here for 48 hours. The opportunity to wash and clean our clothes and bedding is very important for hygiene. And walking into where our beds are, we keep the kind of sleeping quarters over on one side of the building. It gives us both easy access out to where our fire apparatus are, as well as kind of keeping it a little bit quieter for those people that have been up all night running calls. We have 11 bedrooms here at this station, and the reason we built it with so many bedrooms is we want to give ourselves as a city the opportunity to expand. So if we need to put another apparatus here or numerous other people working at this station, that's already in place as far as infrastructure goes, and we don't need to go back and try to make it bigger or better, and that's really important for us, especially because the old station was so small. Back out on the apparatus floor, we had doors facilitated as many places as possible, so that way when we're sleeping at night and a call comes out, we can make our way out fairly quickly to get out onto the truck if we need to and run a call. On the other side of the station, we kind of have other stuff that we may want to keep separated if we want to. Physical fitness is very important to us as firefighters. So in order to better ourselves and make sure we're as healthy as we can to do this job, we have our own gym facility here that we kind of go throughout the day when we can and get an opportunity to come in and work out. Our goal when we run calls, when we get back to the station after calls, our goal is to get ready to go back as soon as we can to run another call. So we have the opportunity or capability here to fill up our air tanks. So you see firefighters wear the big air tanks on their backs and they use those in a fire. We can come back and fill those up and make sure that we're ready to go again when we're wanting to go run another call. We have our own workshop here. We work on a lot of our tools and making sure that everything's clean and operational, and this gives us the capability to do that, again, to make sure that we have everything we need and we're as capable as we can be running calls throughout the city. Cancer prevention is very important in the fire service right now. Because of that, we have an extractor machine, and what this does is gives us the capability when we come back from a fire, we can put our bunker gear into this machine and get all that really nasty crud off of our gear. Again, kind of getting back to that cancer prevention mode, allowing us to be as clean as we possibly can for the next call. And finally is our bunker gear room. We each have our own individual locker. This gives us the opportunity to store our gear when we're not here working in between shifts, as well as keep a clean extra set on here in case we do run a fire and we need to clean our current gear. Typically, this is where your day starts off at the fire station. You come in and get your gear and put it on wherever you're working that day, and then you end the same way, bring your stuff back to your locker to go home after working. This is Med 3. This ambulance just currently moved into the station from Station 7. Station 3, since we've had it built, has turned into one of our busiest stations in the city. Therefore, we wanted to provide the best care in the closest unit as we could. So we moved one of our ambulances up, and this became Med 3 for this particular instance. Out of this station, we also have Pumper 3. And that's a fire apparatus that they utilize to run the calls on this west end of the city. The last vehicle that you see is the chief's vehicle. We have 2 shift chiefs on shift every day, and they split the city. And this chief running out of this station typically covers the west and south area of the city, while our chief at Station 2 covers kind of that northeast section of our city, and they divide it up evenly.
Thank you for going on a tour with us today. If you have any other questions about the Lee's Summit Fire Department, please go to our webpage at lsfire.net or follow us on Facebook at Lee's Summit Fire Department.
Thanks for joining us on the tour.
This month's Council Member Spotlight is all about Mayor Bill Baird. Check it out.
I have always volunteered in the community and I was always really involved, but then I ran for school board. Whenever I got done with my term, I just felt like I had more to give. It's always been my goal from day one is to get everyone in the community connected and working together, and I always called it a spirit of community. Well, Mayor's 24/7 and I have a job. I've had to work really hard at compartmentalizing, is what I call it. So during this time, I'm going to do work. During this time, I'm going to be a mayor, even though I can get a call at any moment about mayor stuff. And so I've had to even work that much harder at setting aside time for myself or for family. So I like to exercise, I like to work out. Hillary's my wife. She actually goes to work out with me as well. And we do like to go downtown to the shops. We make sure we maximize our time together. I mean, I've got 2 kids as well, and we spend a lot of time with them, or whatever time they will give us these days. And I have a dog. I think most people kind of know me know I have to have a dog. We have so much development going on, and we're growing fairly quickly, so we have a lot of infrastructure needs, and sometimes we have gaps in infrastructure, and we've always managed to get by, but with this kind of growth, we're really having to be creative and look at our options and just have a good plan for water, sewer, roads, and more. If we want to grow the most healthy way, we need a diverse economy. We do have a lot of retail that's opened up here, and there's been new construction for retail. We really need to focus in the future on bringing some, well-paying jobs here, good, strong employers that want to be located in this incredible community of now 101,000 people. A lot of our workforce does commute to work still, so they leave Lee Summit to go to work, and it'd be nice if we could keep some of those citizens right here in our community. The times I feel most proud are actually when I'm in the community and I see the community come together.
We have Buddy in the house. Mr. Mayor.
The tree lighting is always very fun. I always feel very proud. It's just a great warm feeling. The same thing goes for when the council will do something and we come together and make a good decision together. There's been a few of those that you go home feeling like a winner. And one of them was when we put together the downtown farmers market, when we bought the land, and it became real, all that hard work. But also the Diversity and Inclusion Commission, that was months and months of discussions and conversations that were really hard to have, and we went ahead and moved forward and as a council all together, and I was very, very proud of that. And there are a few things that the citizens have done that have really helped us tremendously. First, in the middle of a pandemic, they passed a use tax, which is a way for us to collect sales tax whenever someone purchases online. That helps shore up our revenues so that we can continue to provide as high quality services that our city provides. And it helps us take care of our employees, it helps us with our public safety and more. So I can't be more thankful to the citizens for that. Lee Summit has the opportunity to have a major impact on the economy in the Kansas City area. We already, as an economy, are rolling along with such a high median income. We have an amazing workforce here that are paying taxes, they're paying property taxes, they're paying sales taxes, they're keeping our economy rolling, and we really are getting the attention of all our neighbors. And I think that what's going to happen is you're going to see the opportunity for us to really get everybody's attention when businesses start moving here, bigger businesses and more so. You should try to find a way to give back to the community, whether it's at the city level, citizen committees, or just participating in some of our community conversations whenever we have those opportunities. It's worth coming out of your shell or taking that leap of faith and just showing up and saying, what can I do or how can I help? The more that we do this together, the more wonderful the community is.
Thanks for watching the Lee Summit Rundown. I'm Laura Ingeman. See you next time.
We will call to order the Lease Summit Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, November 9th, 2023. Could I get a roll call, please?
Mark Kitchens, Cinda Rader. Here. Jake Lovelace.
Here.
Dana Arth. Here. Donnie Funk.
Here.
Terry Trafton.
Here.
Tanya Jonna Ford. Randy Benbrook.
Here.
Chip Tuzinski.
Here. Thank you. I know no changes to the agenda, so I would look for a motion to approve the agenda as published.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the agenda as published.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Can I get a vote on approval of the agenda, please?
Cinda Rader.
Aye.
Jake Lovelace.
Yes.
Dana Arth.
Aye.
Donnie Funk.
Yes.
Terry Trafton.
Yes.
Randy Benbrook.
Yes.
Chip Tuzinski.
Yes. Thank you, and the agenda has been approved. We will move on to our public comment section. Pretty empty tonight. Figured they'd all be here celebrating you. So we will, thank you. We will move on to our consent agenda, and we have two items, item A and item B on the consent agenda. Item A is approval of the October 26, 2023 Planning Commission Action Report. And item B is application PL 2023-074 final plat, Village at New Longview, blocks 1 through 15, and tracks A and B, NLV Townhomes LLC applicant. I would look for a motion to approve the consent agenda, please.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion. I have a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Can I get a vote on approval of the consent agenda?
Cinda Rader.
Aye.
Jake Lovelace.
Yes.
Dana Arth.
Aye.
Donnie Funk.
Yes.
Terry Trafton.
Yes.
Randy Benbrook.
Yes.
Chip Tuzinski.
Yes. Consent agenda has been approved. I will move on to our public hearings, and we have one, and that is item A, public hearing, continued application PL 2023-077, Unified Development Ordinance Amendments to Article 6, use standards pertaining to accessory uses and structures and requirements for accessory dwelling units, ADUs, and Article 15, rules of interpretation and definitions, City of Lee's Summit applicant. Anyone wishing to provide testimony or speak on behalf of this application, please stand and be sworn in at this time.
Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Good evening. My voice was doing really well all day, and it's starting to go on me a little bit again, so I apologize. But Amy Nassif, Deputy Director of Development, here this evening, as mentioned, to discuss the UDO updates for accessory structures and uses. I'd like to enter into Exhibit A into the record, list of Exhibits 1 through 11.
Exhibits 1 through 11 noted and entered into the record.
Very much. So again, this evening to talk about some updates to our accessory structures and use chapters. And this will be for varying accessory uses and structures, not just accessory dwelling units. We have some other areas within the chapters and sections that we will be updating as well related to those accessory uses. So I have these broken out into kind of 4 areas for you here. So Article 6 will be for the accessory dwelling units in relation to short-term rental use. Then the second one, again in Article 6, for removal of the loft dwelling unit, and I'll explain that a little bit more as we go along. The third one that we'll be looking at, that'll really be the bulk of the ADU requirements and regulations. And then the fourth area we're going to look at is our definitions section. So the reason that we're here tonight and started this journey with the CEDC also was from our IGNITE comprehensive plan and our strong neighborhoods and housing choice goals and plan element. That area that introduces the idea of diversity in housing and exploring and expanding our housing choices and options, also for aging in place opportunities as well. And so we have what we call this implementation dashboard, which is available on our website, and this was one of our implementation tools from a comprehensive plan, the IGNITE plan. And so what this establishes is the goal from our strong neighborhoods, which is to maintain thriving quality neighborhoods that connect a diversity of residents throughout the community. And the objective that was established from the comprehensive plan was to do this was to increase the mix of affordable housing. And the action item specifically that's related to tonight also was to create UDO regulations to allow for ADUs as an option for rental income, aging family members, and affordable option for homeowners. So we started this journey with several meetings with the CEDC. We had some really great discussion starting back in February of 2022. I have all the meeting dates here for you, and then also in your agenda packet in the staff report, have these itemized as well, just with a brief summary of everything that was discussed, because it was quite a bit hard to capture here. But happy to answer any questions you may have about any of those meetings. And then kind of in between here in the spring of 2023, we did a citizen survey, which I'll go into some more detail for you as well later in this presentation. So broke up the discussion for tonight into 6 areas to help facilitate things and take you down this journey with us and answer any questions you might have. The first area we'll talk about is what are our existing requirements and just some minor cleanup or housekeeping items we need to take care of. And then existing development conditions and design requirements specific to ADUs. We'll talk a little bit about our citizen survey results. Old Downtown Lee Summit and the area and properties there came up quite a bit with the CEDC, so just wanted to provide you a summary of that as well. And then we, as always, did research with other cities and communities and what they're doing, and then share with you those recommendations and walk you through each of those. Excuse me. So the first kind of housekeeping item is in Article 6, Division 4. This is our intent and interpretation section. Basically what we needed to add here is currently the director can help if there are any issues with interpretation of this code section, but specifically just related to accessory structures that are listed in Table 6, but it doesn't also say those accessory uses not identified in the chapter. And that's a big part of the chapter as well. It's something that we already do in practice, so it's just a housekeeping item to help facilitate discussions and when people call and need some specific help, so just adding that language here. It does not change any of the uses or any procedures, but it just helps when anyone needs to submit something for consideration to us. The second one, it deals with swimming pools actually. So swimming pools are a type of accessory use. Currently though, we need to update subsection F here because when we're dealing with building permits, the swimming pools we get a lot of those building permits, and the setbacks can change dramatically depending on how they're classified. So we currently exclude swimming pools from being considered an accessory structure just for this section of code because of the implications and the hardship it creates with setback requirements. It's something we've been doing in practice for years and just needed to clean this language up here. Basically what it does right now is if a swimming pool is say 10 feet away from the home, then their setback, the rear setback is like 10 feet. But if you're closer to the home, then you get punished and you have to have a 30 to 50 foot setback. So it kind of doesn't make any sense. So we've been in practice doing it the way the building code recommends, and so this will help facilitate that. It just cleans that up for us. And then this is an interesting table that we have. And so this is a table shown on the right-hand side. This is just a snapshot. The table is very long and wouldn't fit on the screen, but this is just the first portion of it. This table provides a list of our permitted accessory structures. These are all permitted and have requirements established with them. Unfortunately, this table is in a section of our code called prohibited. So as you can imagine, it causes some confusion. It's hard to navigate the reader or the public to. So literally what we are doing is just taking this table out of the section it's in right now and moving it to the permitted section of the code. I think it was just a leftover when we were reorganizing the code from many years ago. So, and then eventually also too, this table will be updated to reflect and match the verbiage language that we come up with ADUs. So speaking of accessory dwelling units, before we really get into updating those regulations, we do right now, we currently allow accessory dwelling units. We allow ADUs under varying different names and different sections of our code. So it's very difficult to always find those regulations and to explain, and especially for the public to follow along with those. So this first kind of housekeeping item, we're just removing other areas where it references ADU so that it can all be captured. And our recommendation tonight, one of them is everything will be under the same section of code. So this is just removing currently where we talk about ADUs and loft dwelling units. And then again, loft dwelling units are in two different places in our code. So again, just striking this out, which is something we need to do in order to then put everything under one section of our UDO. So everything will be together. This one here we go. So this one again is just cleanup of the language and just referring to the table I talked about previously that we need to move under the permitted section. And the table will fall right after this subsection D. But this is where we were talking about permitted accessory uses. And so that's where the appropriate place is for that. And then we just, again, cleaned up some of the references to the table because the language wasn't necessary. But it doesn't actually change anything with this here. So some of the things we're doing tonight is to help improve readability with our other accessory uses and structures. And this is a good example of it here too. Minor in nature, but very important. This section of our code is for permitted temporary accessory uses. And here we're talking about construction, sales, office, trailers. But we just want to make sure it's really clear and transparent. We're just adding the word trailer into the subsection because that's what the reference is for the types of sales offices on those sites. So that's all that's doing. Now you can see those are just the housekeeping items, minor things. Was there any questions on any of those? Very important, but just a little bit easier to digest than before we dive into the ADUs, we thought.
Go ahead.
Chairman. Oh, yeah, I just have a question. With regard to those uses like in Longview area there, where they have those garages and then they have, some of them have buildings above and all that, is that separate because of the way that subdivision was platted? Then, because it's not downtown, it's not old part of downtown, but is that why that subdivision is maybe?
That was approved through a PDP process.
Right.
That allowance was given and it was done through the PDP process. That's why they were allowed to have that.
So these would be outside of the PDP process where they can.
Yes. So with that, we'll go ahead and dive into the accessory dwelling units portion of the article. So accessory dwelling units, again, are identified in our comprehensive plan, and just to set the table here, just accessory dwelling units are a smaller independent residential dwelling located on the same lot as a detached single-family home.
We can just kind of fire questions.
Sure.
And Amy, we won't wait all the way through. There's a
I
lot
can
of
rapid
information
fire.
to take in.
There's 97 more slides, so as you come
Sorry.
up with them, go ahead. I'm kidding.
I just noticed on the last slide, I meant to bring this up when it was up, but you're very efficient, so thank you. On the detached unit, oh, okay. So that's just actually a detached structure, ground level. I was just wondering about detached garage with accessory unit over. That be covered under detached?
That could
Well, no,
possibly be the
that's
middle bottom one.
attached.
It could, if you have a garage that's detached.
Above the garage unit, it could be either attached or detached,
Correct.
just to be clear. Okay, got you. Thank you.
You're welcome. So these are just some images that our friends with Creative Services made for us to help further clarify what we're talking about and just different option styles. So with these illustrations, these are all different ADU types, and the ADU itself is the little portion of the building or the lot that's highlighted in yellow for you. So we have the above the garage option, an attached ADU, detached, or within the primary residence. That could be in the basement, for instance. And again, we already talked about our implementation dashboard, which is what brought us here today. So the comprehensive plan also talks a lot about and has a section about ADUs specifically as well, and the benefits to those. So, you know, one of the great things with that is it does increase the affordable housing options, and also provides options for multi-generational opportunities for members of your family or older members of your family that may want to, you know, stay on the lot but not in the same, you know, building with you. Also preserves and protects existing neighborhoods when you do have ADU development regulations and requirements. And again, we currently allow ADUs now, but we believe tonight with our recommendations it will really help with this portion here with preserving and protecting our existing neighborhoods and residences, and also does increase property values for the property owner. So here's just some examples of ADUs of what we're talking about, just some visual images. We have a garage conversion in the upper left-hand corner for you, some detached options, and then the bottom right is just showing what an attached option would look like and how it can blend in really nicely with the primary structure. So this is when we get into it a little bit. So currently, in our Article 6, and as I mentioned previously, we do allow ADUs now, but they're under varying different names. Sometimes it says ADU, sometimes it says loft dwelling above a garage, sometimes it says loft, sometimes it says guest house. So with all of these, there are different regulations in place, but they're very minimal also. Lot size, for instance, there's really no lot size requirement right now unless you specifically say you're a guest house and you're in certain districts, then it's a 1 acre minimum lot size that you have to have. Or if you're a loft dwelling unit, then that's a minimum lot size for the lot of 15,000 square foot, but only for Old Downtown Lee Summit. There's currently no maximum number of ADUs allowed on a lot. And this can get really interesting because, for instance, if you're in zoned agricultural, you are allowed to have what the current code says is a loft above any detached structure, and you're allowed 3 to 4 detached structures on a single agricultural lot. So that just created at least 4 ADUs. And it doesn't even then reference interior ADUs, so possibly could even be more. So that's a little just concerning there. We do not have any architecture requirements at all for any ADUs of any kind, whether they be guest houses, lofts, above a garage, or anything as well. The only time maximum height comes into play and is talked about is specifically only to guest houses. And then we don't have a size requirement for ADUs either. So as you can see, it gets really confusing and also gets a little troublesome when you're talking about having accessory dwelling units when we really don't have any guidance for property owners. So while you're thinking about that, we also, as part of our research then, started to say, well, we want to get some stakeholder involvement. We do want to hear from residents and see what their thoughts are. So Shannon McGuire, senior planner, did a great job. We put together a survey that was distributed in early March, and then second push went out March 24th, and he did receive, we got 580 responses, which we thought was great. And this is just an overview of what those survey results were. Overwhelmingly, we had over 70% people supportive of ADUs. Over 65% actually responded ADU should be allowed in all districts. And over 60% said ADU permitted by right. So really had a lot of great support for inclusion of ADUs. Over 70% did say that there should be some kind of standards in place, that the ADU should look similar to the primary or principal structure, which makes total sense. And then over 80% said yes, there should be some height restrictions as well. Moment with those. And then talking about the size of an ADU also, we had over 300 or so of our respondents say that the ADU itself should be over 850 square feet to no maximum at all. So then, so we shared that with the CEDC, and then several of our other meetings before and after as well discussed the really important area of our Old Downtown Lee Summit and ADUs, what they're currently allowed to do, and what some of the concerns and moving forward, what that should look like. So again, currently attached ADUs above garages are permitted on lots of 15,000 square foot or more in Old Downtown Lee Summit with no design criteria. There's setback requirements and some bulk requirements with massing only in very limited areas, but there's no design or architecture or building standard requirements. And currently ADUs can be used as short-term rentals. So in looking at that, we thought, okay, well, it'll be important to also then look at what does Old Downtown and Lee Summit in general look like, what's the size, and how many lots do we kind of have that are zoned residential and have a single family home on it. So what's the potential for what we're looking at here? So we created this exhibit for the CEDC, and this shows and demonstrates parcels that have single family residential zoning on it and have a single family residence on the lot. Doesn't mean they have an ADU, doesn't mean they could necessarily fit an ADU. We were just looking at the parcels themselves. And generally in downtown, our residential lots do range in size from about 2,500 square feet to 3.7 acres in size. But the average residential lot size just under 15,000 square feet. And the average residential lot with a single family dwelling on it, so that's hitting both the requirements of an ADU, is just under 11,000 square feet. So on the right-hand side is something also that we had made at the CEDC's request, which is just an exhibit, just showing a schematic of kind of what would the massing or scale of an ADU on a property look like. So what you're looking at is, Shannon did this work great, he did a fantastic job, is that this is an illustration just showing typical lot, the average lot size that we could find with average houses on it, sizes, and this is true depiction to scale of what that looks like. Blue are detached garages, and so the green is showing what a detached ADU would look like, and just a possibility. They just wanted to see what an illustration might be. So we have a street view at the bottom, and then the top, more of an aerial view. So then we moved into, okay, so what do our friends and neighbors and other communities do, especially in the area? So what we provided here for you is the top row here has our existing requirements, and then we share with you what Blue Springs, Overland Park, and Olathe has. Those were some of the locations and areas that were interested to the CEDC. And so as you can see from here, if you look over at, say, the maximum number of ADUs on a lot, every other city restricts that to 1, whereas we currently really don't have a restriction. All other cities have that, the architecture requirement that it must be compatible with the principal structure. They all also do include a height maximum requirement, which is typically not to exceed that principal structure height, and then also have a maximum size requirement for the ADU itself, as well as several not just require that the setbacks be the same as the primary structure, but also you want it to be set back a few feet, 5 to 6 feet from the principal structure itself, so you don't have a detached ADU in front of the primary house. But so this is just showing kind of how we compare and line up with some of those other cities. So this is current. So our goal then, with taking all the feedback that we got from the community and working with the CEDC in collaboration with folks, this research, wanted to prepare some draft language recommendations that improve the clarity in our requirements, put everything into one section of code to help that readability. We want to include design requirements and include height, size restrictions, and other protections for our existing neighborhoods that currently don't exist. And then all of this will then advance our goals for housing choice and our comprehensive plan that's in that dashboard that was established. So to help now this part of the discussion, kind of sectioned everything off into pieces for us so that we can stop and talk about anything we need to along the way. Were there any questions so far before I dive into what the recommendations are?
Anyone? Thank you, Amy. Keep rolling.
Thank you. Okay. So, and this is just a snapshot of everything that we have printed out for you in your packets as well. So the first is our purpose and introduction statement. We don't really have one that addresses accessory dwelling units, and so since we are going to establish development design criteria, it's important to set the stage for that. So this first area is just the introduction to what an ADU is and our intent that it will be one ADU per single family residential lot. Yes, sir. So they can be, I like to think of those as a parallel tract. So they can be more restrictive than ours. If they're less restrictive, that's on them, but they still have to meet, I call it parallel because they still have to meet the city codes and standards regardless. So since we don't create those or write those and we don't enforce, but it does allow subdivisions to have flexibility to be more restrictive if they like to be, for sure. They shouldn't. Our review is still based on our city code requirements, yes. But they wouldn't. Subdivision, that would be between the subdivision and the property owner. Welcome.
Jumping the gun here, but just so I'm clear, this is all single-family lots, and how does that tie in with residential large lot, and then also with ag, which I think you referenced earlier, where talked about it was where they could have as many as 4 different ADUs there. So how does that all work from 4 to now where it looks like?
Yeah, I love that you asked that. I'm gonna take you down that road with us. So the first part to your question too is location. And so this is the first part. So this is subsection 1. So A is just setting our introduction and purpose, our intent statement. So the first area was location. And I think you just had asked about that too. So there's 3 areas that you would be able to have an ADU. It's properties located in Old Downtown Lee Summit, same as you can now, or properties half acre in size or larger that are zoned ag, RDR, RLL, R1, or RP1. And if you're neither of those things, say you're on a smaller size lot than that, then what came out of the CEDC was we can consider it and we'll review it with a PDP process. So that would require public hearing, coming to Planning Commission, then going through and having public hearing at City Council. And then this is just demonstrate, oh yes.
So if you are under a half acre, but you meet one of those other criteria there, but you are under a half acre, but you're in this area, it's very reasonable that you could have a 1,000 square foot house and 1,000 square foot accessory dwelling unit with it, you're now at that 60-40 ratio that you just talked about on a 10,000 square foot lot, which is so that you wouldn't be able to have an ADU on that without going through the PDP process?
So if your property in general, if your gross size of your acreage is less than half acre, you will have to come through a PDP process. Does that answer it for you? Yep. Okay.
The point of that was that 3,000 square feet's a big house, right? And you're still meeting the impervious coverage that you were talking about.
Still meaning that.
And so, I mean, that would go down to, that's a quarter-acre lot, or even, that's probably a quarter-acre lot in that scenario that I was just talking about there. And so just, yeah, that's all.
Yeah, we take the gross, and then you have to work backwards like you would with anything, like, are you meeting setbacks? Can you meet our impervious coverage area? Are you meeting the height requirement? Are you, be able to park still?
Yep.
Things like that to see if you still can.
Did you guys, I don't know whether half acre was listed in that chart that you just showed from Blue Springs and Overland Park and Olathe and some of those other areas. Did they get into that as far as the minimum requirement of size of the lot that they would allow ADUs on?
We will actually be the only municipality that will have a lot size requirement. The others do not. They control that through their setbacks, impervious coverage, height, and other restrictions.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so then the second section, so we have the location, and then the second area is going to be like, what kind of ADU are we talking about? And so this, again, just describes all the different types of ADUs, attached, detached, within the single-family dwelling unit or without. And then with the illustrations that we have, we've always found it very helpful to include illustrations or graphics within the UDO to help improve readability. So at the end of the verbiage I just showed you, this graphic would be there as well. So then we start getting into some of the development requirements. Again, these development requirements would be new. They don't currently exist. The only thing that exists right now is that you have to meet the setback requirements, but the other ones don't. So this, we feel, provides some much needed protection. So language is that all ADUs must be set back 6 feet from the principal structure and set back 20 feet from rear property lines. All other required zoning districts, setbacks will apply. Conversion of a garage would not be permitted unless you can still meet parking elsewhere on your property. And we'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end. And then the ADU itself must be able to provide one off-street parking space. So common things that other cities and municipalities require, and some of the best practices that we found through our research with ULI, APA, and AARP too. Then we'll get into so now that we move to the structure size and the lot coverage, the Commissioner Lovelace, you were kind of talking about a little bit earlier too. So we currently do not have any size restrictions, and so this one would give some great protections. So the ADU would not exceed a gross floor area of 1,000 square feet or more than 50% of the principal structure's floor area, whichever is less. And this is pretty standard of how most other municipalities also provide that. Now with that, there was a lot of discussion still from CEDC and about Old Downtown Lee Summit. So many of those lots in our downtown are much smaller. So to provide some additional protections and safeguards to that, the 1,000 square foot applies. However, if you're in Old Downtown Lee Summit and you're less than 15,000 square feet, then your ADU cannot exceed 500 square feet or 50% of the principal structure. Through our research also, the 500 square foot, sometimes referred to as a junior ADU, still gives you enough room within there to meet all building code requirements and meet all safety requirements, and making sure that you have a kitchen area, eating, and bathroom and restroom facilities, and sleeping quarters, so with that 500 feet. In addition, I think the 2024 ICC codes are going to have an appendix even referring to this and having these same numbers in the 2024 updates. And then the ADU, something we talked about a little bit ago, also will not cause the total impervious lot coverage to exceed 60%. That's still required right now, but it's not clear that it's required right now. So definitely important to keep that in there and have that in with all the other ADU requirements to make sure, again, everything's in that same location to help ensure that we're getting what we want and need. maximum of 2 bedrooms, and then really important as well is the height of the ADU will not exceed the height of the principal structure. Definitely don't want an attachment to be above and scale over and be taller than the principal primary home.
I mean, I'm gonna check with everybody. Everybody good so far before we keep rolling? No questions with what we have so far? Back too far? Okay, good.
Thank you very much. So, and then getting into a little bit design criteria. This is another lagging area right now, or lacking, excuse me. So the ADU must be compatible with the existing neighborhood and principal single-family structure on the lot. Pretty common language. It just must incorporate similar materials, color, and design. Something, again, we don't have right now. And then permitting and occupancy. So one thing that we'd like to see as well is to make sure that the owner of the primary residence, the owner of the lot, remain and stay as the ongoing owner occupant during this whole time, because one of the things that we're doing is restricting with this new language so that ADUs cannot turn into short-term rentals or Airbnbs. So this helps safeguards with that. And that the primary and accessory dwelling unit will remain under single ownership. Yes. Short-term rentals are defined, I think it was under, I think it was state statute, we just talked about this the other day, of renting for shorter, I think it was 30 or a 60-day period at a time. Yeah, I don't remember, what was it, Shannon? Was it 30 or 60? Was I close? 30 days. No, yeah, 30 days in Missouri state statute. Correct. Well, no. So we define, go ahead.
Shannon McGuire, senior planner. So anything under 30 days is considered a short-term rental. Anything over 30 days is considered a standard rental through state statute.
Okay. And then, here we go. So one of the other things we want to do is just to kind of close that loop also is that short-term rentals will not be located in any ADU. Because the purpose of the ADU is to provide for residency, not short-term visiting or turning into a commercial. Yes. Did you have a question? Yeah.
Anything right now?
It would be right now. It would be right now. And we don't have any permits in process right now for any ADUs. It would be something that we would look into with our legal department and with our NHS department in check. And I'd be happy to follow up with you on that.
There's a great article about a community in Florida that three brothers lost about $37.5 million because they had VRBOs, and the city government took them and said no more VRBOs in this community. But it was like short-term rental properties.
That was going to be my question. What is a short-term rental defined as?
It's no more than 30 days.
Less than 30 days. VRBOs are short-term rentals. Yep.
That is okay. Yes.
But the owner will reside on that
The
property.
owner has, pardon me? So you can get permission from the director. So if there's something that's right now occurring and they're long-term renting, you know, but the owner's not there, we do have a caveat in the update that, I think it's here, a waiver can be requested and reviewed by the director of the department.
So that would be if basically somebody owned a property that had two structures on it and they were renting both, they would have to go and get special consideration.
They'd have to go and get special consideration from us because the intent of this and the requirement is that the owner will live in one. And yes. But there is an avenue they could make the ask if there's a circumstance. Maybe if they've lived away this whole time, or maybe they can't come back for a year or two or something. The goal of that was so that this does not turn, so that you don't have just then rentals on the property, just all rentals without any home ownership.
Yeah, if you don't make that restriction, people are gonna buy houses, build ADUs, and then rent both, and it's gonna destroy.
Yeah, and this is what, yeah. So.
Is there anywhere defined how long a temporary waiver is for?
It's up to 1 year.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So every year, someone, if they were renting an ADU and another primary home, every year they would have to come and get approval.
They would technically, and it'd probably be something, if we start to see it over and over again, I imagine we'd come back and want to revisit this section of the code. Yeah. And then, again, some housekeeping, but very important. In Article 15, then, with the regulations with the ADUs, and even currently allowing ADUs right now, we just don't have a definition in our code currently for ADU, so we just wanted to put one in there. And so, let me see here. So this is what then the recommendations from tonight. So the recommendations all from tonight, everything is the same that was recommended for approval out of CEDC, except for the definitions. We didn't have the definition done at that time. Everything else has remained the same out of that committee, and I think our last meeting that was mid-August. So this is just a snapshot and a summary then of what the results of these recommendations would be, and then how we would line up and then compare with our neighbors in other jurisdictions. So as you can see, the only difference then would be that we now have a lot size requirement where other cities don't, but it would line us back up with a maximum number of ADUs per lot, with having architecture requirement and expectation, height, ADU size, and some better setbacks. And then this was our process, the 1.5 years or so of research, outreach, and the drafting, working with CEDC, and then our public hearing this evening. The recommendations tonight will move forward to City Council December. And the one area that staff wanted to update slightly was in talking about the parking. We wanted just to clarify where the parking standards are found. So we would recommend just this one change tonight, and I did it in flip reverse for you. So red is the current language for this evening, and the black where it says standards found in Article 8 is just the little caveat we would like to add just to help navigate the reader more clearly of where our parking standards are. My voice is still good. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Amy. Commissioner Rayner, you want to start?
Okay, right here on the screen. Where, I'm sorry, where are you in the packet? So we're not actually changing anything in the short-term rental section. So I think so the only reason I have that in there, and I apologize if that was confusing, the only piece that we reviewed or studied or worked with the CEDC on in the short-term rental chapter of the code was just to say ADUs are not permitted in there. We have not gotten into or changed anything with any other portion of it. So yes, those are all existing, yes. Oh, thank you. Was that the only, Gotcha, yeah. One day we may look deeper into that section, but yeah, it was just, we weren't really in that tonight. Thank you. Right now, we have no regulation at all. Right now, if you're in the agricultural district, ag district, that one says that you can have specifically a loft or an ADU above all of your accessory structures, and you can have 4 accessory structures. So technically, if you're a single-family home on an agriculture district, you can have 4, and actually even 5, because then you can have an ADU inside the house too. It doesn't say you can't. So everything would now just be across the board. You can have no more than 1.
I have no questions.
Crafton?
I disagree with, or I will agree with Commissioner Lovelace. I think you guys did a great job spelling it all out and all your research. I do support having site. I think that's a fantastic thing. Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Tuzinski?
Just one quick, can you go to the slide before this one? Yeah, this one here.
There you go.
What is that graphic meant to show? Just single-family detached homes?
Yes, and I'm sorry. So I didn't, this section is actually like 55 pages long.
Okay.
So the language in black actually currently exists, and there's a whole section called dwellings. And then underneath where accessory dwelling would go, it currently says like what a 2-family is, what an apartment means, and so just a nice little picture someone had drawn that we didn't update, yes.
And the only other question I have is, so residents that have accessory dwellings now, bothering of them once this goes into effect, or how will that affect people once this goes into effect?
They're already permitted, so we wouldn't go back and say, hey, you need to change your architecture, or hey, you're too tall, knock down floor, or anything like that at all. So in that regard, it would be retroactive.
Because they already have an existing permit.
Or the structure already exists.
Thank you. So one clarification, Amy, for all of our viewers that are out there watching. As what Jake pointed out, when you say on larger lots where they could have multiple buildings, barns, they could still have multiple buildings. They could only have one ADU in one of those buildings.
You are correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure I understood that, and anybody listening to this awesome program understood. Anything else from the commission? Good?
Yes, I'm good.
Are you tired of talking?
100%.
Okay. We will close the public hearing, and Commissioner Rader's going to lead us in a motion. Do we have any discussion? I'll start there. No? Rader. Thank you for the lasagna while you're looking for what you're supposed to read.
Is your microphone on?
Staff. Is that how you want me to read it? Staff recommends approval? Was that written for that?
Same. Say we recommend approval. Or you make a motion to.
I make a motion to,
The Planning Commission. It's not.
Planning Commission makes a motion to recommend approval of the United Development Ordinance amendments as presented.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second.
We had the one change, if you don't mind, if it's okay, if a motion to approve with the updated language to section 1.350 as presented by staff this evening.
Go ahead, Cinda, you can. Yeah. Added 1.350.
with the added 1.350.
Is that okay, David?
Will that work, David? He wants us to start over.
Sorry, I'm not sure I'm following that last point. Is it part of the package, or is this something?
This
that-
was
It's
not
not
part
in
of
the
the
package.
package.
You
It was
didn't give
something
me any
new this
verbiage.
evening.
Yeah, so your amendment on top of the standard motion is appropriate.
Okay. So we are good. Okay, so we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Can I get a vote on the application, please?
Cinda Rader,
Aye.
Jake Lovelace,
Yes.
Dana Arth,
Aye.
Johnny Funk,
Yes.
Terry Trefton,
Yes.
Randy Benbrook,
Yes.
Chip Tuzinski.
Yes.
And the application has been recommended for approval. We will move to our roundtable. Sarah, we're all gonna pout and cry tonight because you're gone. Hopefully you enjoyed lasagna and some cake, and Terry complained a little bit about the cake. He thought it was too sweet, but that's just Terry.
I'm glad Mark's not
I
on.
require a retraction of that statement.
That's on public
I just
record
wanted Mark to
now.
hear it.
Thank you all so much.
No, thank you. Anything from the commission roundtable wise? Amy, we are not having a meeting on November 16th. Shannon's really excited about that.
No meeting.
Anything else? Don, you want to tell us anything? Anything fun?
Tell us what you learned
Way
yesterday,
back there,
Don.
hanging out, nothing.
What's your takeaway?
In here, Josh?
In here.
We are adjourned.